Hey everyone, it's Kim Veda here. I'm actually outside of the office today. I'm in Palm Coast, Florida. It's a little bit windy here. I might have something about Mary hair at some point, but bear with me. It's 4:20 today, and I wanted to talk about another herb, which is cannabis. And cannabis has been used for thousands of years. Its origins go back even into the Vedas, which are the ancient spiritual texts of India. And they're actually thought of to be the oldest writings that are known to man. Some say 7,000 years. And Ayurveda is also mentioned in these Vedas, these spiritual texts. I just wanted to do a little video to talk about cannabis from an Ayurvedic perspective, to talk a little bit about the scientific composition of it and the effects it has, not just on the body, but also the mind, some of the conditions that it may be able to treat and benefit, and also talking about the spiritual and philosophical aspects to cannabis as well. So, in Ayurveda, we believe that everything in nature has some type of healing properties, some type of healing benefits to it, if it's used for the right indications and also in the right quantities. So it could be very healing, or it could actually exacerbate the conditions that it's initially trying to treat. So that's something to be really mindful of with cannabis. From an Ayurvedic perspective, I would say that it is something that is tamasic. It could create feelings of heaviness, of lethargy, of inertia. So it's really important just how you're using cannabis. It could be very healing, or it actually could be detrimental if you're not using it wisely. Also, from an Ayurvedic perspective, it is heating and drying. It has that type of quality to it, so it can increase both pitta and vata. So that's another thing to be mindful of. And for that reason, I would say that the mode of administration is of great importance. And what I mean by that is how you are consuming the cannabis. The dry flower, low temperature vaporizers are a preference, because fresh cannabis in flower form, it has more of the bioactive terpenes that are in it, which are really nature's smallest antioxidants. These are the little oil crystals that you find on cannabis. And concentrates like the vape oil pens, they just are going to lack these terpenes and some of the healing properties of it. So vaporizing fresh bud provides more of these terpenes and flavor than fire does, and it's also less harsh on the lungs. Talking about the lungs, did you know that cannabis is actually beneficial for asthma? Yes, it is, because the corticosteroids that are produced by the adrenal glands, they're actually stimulated by the endocannabinoids that are found in cannabis, so it can help to relax the lungs. But I would say if you are asthmatic, maybe the best form of administration would be to have it in edible form. But cooking with cannabis and eating cannabis, it does have more of that cerebral effect, more of that psychoactive property to it, and it also lasts longer. So that's another thing to take into consideration. But I would say dry herb in flower form in a low temperature vaporizer or an edible form would be the most healing ways to consume cannabis. There's also a lot of research with cannabis for being effective for reducing pain and inflammation, systemic inflammation from autoimmune disorders. That's because it contains something known as myrcene, and myrcene is an analgesic, and it has a sedative-like quality to it. What this myrcene also does is that it helps to the pituitary gland to produce a brain elixir secretion known as beta endorphins. And these endorphins, when they're able to be produced by our bodies naturally, help to really they're one of the most powerful pain relievers that we know out there. Another other things that it can help with is anxiety, depression, PTSD, epilepsy, seizure-like conditions, Parkinson's, really so much more. What else? Well, it's sometimes when you smoke you can get the munchies and crave sugar in particular. Why? Because when you smoke cannabis or consume cannabis, it actually lowers your blood sugar. So that's another thing to be careful with cannabis, is overeating and intaking too much sugar, though it can be great for some that need an appetite stimulant. So it can be beneficial for certain people. I did mention briefly about the Vedas just to illustrate how many thousands of years humans have actually been working with this plant. It's revered in India as the herb plant of Shiva, and it's been used in spiritual practice for actually millennia. I know in my trip to India, I did spend some time in a holy city called Rishikesh, and in that city, both alcohol and meat were banned, not sold, not to be consumed for spiritual reasons, yet cannabis or ganja was really quite plentiful. It was sold by sadhus or holy men, or they were dressed like holy men, dressed in orange on the side of the Ganges River, and really cannabis is everywhere in Rishikesh, just no meat and no alcohol. Shiva was said to consume cannabis as a sacrament for his Nataranya, ecstatic dance, and also for the creation of yoga. But I will say that one should not simply rely on cannabis in spiritual practice, because it can lead to the illusion of real spiritual progress. And the goal of spiritual practice is really to be firmly established in unity consciousness, and just temporary glimpses of this may serve as some motivation on the path, but it shouldn't be mistaken for the attainment of the actual goal, if that makes sense. So sometimes we actually need to sit and with our raw and real emotions and experience whatever pain, whatever discomfort we're actually feeling, so that we can experience a deeper, more real aspect of the self, and also let a more loving and powerful version of ourselves out. And cannabis, it could potentially limit this. So just remember that cannabis, it can be right for some and not for others, and everyone's brain chemistry and body composition is just different. But when consumed responsibly, it can be incredibly healing. So I just wanted to bring you all this video today. I hope that you might have learned something. As always, feel free to reach out if you have any questions. Happy 420, guys. Stay and be well. Namaste.